and they were the publishers of this.
Right.
And they had no idea that people who buy audio-visual materials don't buy them from book catalogs.
Right.
So the series, this was 25, I think, 25 fabulous programs, each 20 minutes long with these incredible slides. And they put, Harvard University Press put it in their book catalog, and not one sale resulted, in spite of because I do good work.
Right.
Incredibly great reviews. These
Right.
were terrific. But they didn't sell any. And I lost 2 years of my life because I was supposed to get royalties. I was
Right.
supposed to co-own this, and no sales resulted.
Well, Randy was encouraging all of us to put everything possible on YouTube, and the difficulty there is the same difficulty. To make it on YouTube, you have to have a successful promotional
Yeah, but
apparatus.
it doesn't matter. I put stuff up that's important. I'll be putting up this in you talking tonight, and I don't care if it gets 10 hits. It's important because what you say is important, and it's part of history. And someday someone will find it valuable for use in something of a documentary in the
Well,
history
you
of photography. Maybe just the story you told
Yeah,
about
you
that.
know, maybe-
My friend is over there helping them build the English dictionary for China right now. Fraser Sutherland from Canada, who's a poet and.
China's an amazing, either of you been there? Both?
I've only been there once.
It's an-
He's been sending descriptions of living there on campus.
Yeah.
About what it's like, from an American. I told him as a Canadian, you have to really watch what you say and how you behave. Probably every email is read. I caution him greatly about, he's a very conservative, legitimate kind of guy, so he won't have any trouble. Married to an ex-nun. He wants to quote Martin Luther as saying that ex-nuns make the best wives.
I think China's an amazing place. In Japan, where I worked for many years.
Right.
Both places.
I've never been there.
But Japan is so xenophobic. I've been told that Japanese, if you go there, you'll not be able to become really friends with them. They don't like foreigners.
They're very different. The two societies, although they came thousands of years ago from the same stock, from the language to the culture to the food, they're totally different. And to me, they're very engaging in different ways.
What is the way? How are they engaged? How is China engaged and how is Japan engaged?
Well, the Chinese are very warm. The Japanese are very cold. I'll never forget when I flew. I made 4 films for the Taiwan government, and I had a crew in Taiwan, and we took a flight from the Taiwan airport to coming back home, and we stopped in China, in Japan on the way. And the difference between the two airports just told the whole story. In the airport in Taiwan, the Chinese people, it was a warm summer day, Chinese people were all dressed in shorts and, T-shirts, had kids sitting on their shoulders, everybody was laughing. It was, this wonderful, informal, family kind of thing. We get on the plane, we land in Tokyo Airport at Narita, and you come out. Every single person was a man in a blue suit with a white shirt and a red tie, carrying a briefcase.
Right.
No smiles. They were all walking as though they were driven. They all had appointments. They were business-like. There was no smiles. I mean, the formality.
They make fun of that in music, in Japanese music videos today. The young people, the young pop stars are very colorful. That's where I got a lot of my clothing ideas.
Well, of course, it's very different today because the world has become so globalized,
It's more with the young than with the old, though.
Yeah, well, life is just full of surprises. I met a woman today who just got back from Germany. She's made a film called Blue Jeans. She spent 3 years in Berlin, and apparently she was absolutely thunderstruck the way young German people have a love-hate relationship with America. They love America. They love the informality. They adopt all of the language as American slang and American music, and yet they hate us and envy us in some ways.
Really?
And I run a series called Meet the Filmmaker, and if I have everybody's email, you'll be invited to my screening.
I will certainly come.
I'll be showing her film in November.
Oh, great.
So,
Where will you be showing
Reischauer, when it came to Japan, Reischauer said that Japan would go through a period of absorption of culture from China, and once it had sufficiently digested the culture and made it its own, it would then go nationalistic and anti-Chinese in order to assert itself, its dominance, rather than its submission to China. Then it would go through the cycle all over again. Another 100 years would pass, and Japan would once again start assimilating external culture, especially Chinese culture. And then, wham, the nationalism would take over to allow you to stand on your own feet after you finish supping from the master's plate.
And now, of course, with the islands, I mean, Japan and China are at each other's throats over these barren islands.
Right.
With oil under them.
Oil under them and all kinds of
It's not
other...
very barren.
Yeah.
Well, the most disturbing thing is the kind of nationalism that's being expressed in the streets of China by people, and on the internet, by people who are saying, we have to make war with Japan. In one way or another, many, many people are saying we have to make war with Japan. And that's what happens when a country is young and has been on a growth curve for a long time and sees a future growth curve that never ends, and has oomph, has a certain degree of majesty, and assumes that the forces of history or God must be in its favor, and as a consequence it should spread the virtue of its civilization everywhere. So the Chinese are hitting that kind of nationalism right now, the kind we had in the 19th century.
And the Japanese are all an aged population, are now dealing with what we'll be dealing with in the next 20 years, an aging population where the young people are leaving because there are no jobs, because you have a job for life, so there are no openings for them. So the talented young Japanese are leaving, and meanwhile the economy is beginning to buckle under the weight of old people. But fortunately they were savers. They're the biggest saving nation in the world. So their yen has remained strong. It's been so strong they can't compete on the international market, which I think is quite fascinating. That's why I'm anxious to see what Ross Perot has to say.
What are your current projects?
Well, I'm spending most of my time on my book right now. I wrote this electronic book.
Right.
Which I'll show a little bit of you tonight. I wrote it actually because, basically I'm a filmmaker. That's my career.
Right.